I was very inspired. There's a Mental Health Services Act, there's a pool of consumer champions, nothing about us without us. This flyer here really sort of talks to my passion, which is prevention and intervention, strengthening mental health in all communities. I'm finding like I'm just hitting wall after wall after wall. I think I want to ask for support for peer leadership programs. I don't think you should expect us to work for nothing. You know, when you're an artist in residence at Echo Lake Camp, at least you get room and board and you get, you know, to stay there for 3 days. You could be offering in kind. There could be some kind of creative. Berkeley Mental Health shut down, I don't know how many years ago. I was leading a program in a little back room at the drop-in center. I just got to complete, I led 6 field trips, 24 hours, while I got my level 3 certification in life art process to MALPA practitioner. It's an expressive arts movement based, because what I think is missing from the mental health is integrative, whole, holistic experiences that are based looking forward, not back. I think a lot of the care is trauma, not trauma informed. I don't think talk does a lot. So some of this stuff, transformation means we're moving forward. Seems like there's no problem with stipends for planning, but part of planning is action and value action. That's part of the planning process. So, and I'm sorry I'm talking so fast because I'm feeling like, so I've been working really hard. I've completed 3 years, 3 level 3 of Tamalpa Life Art. I wanted expressive arts here as part of the Mental Health Services Act. I was part of focus committees. I served on the oversight committee, I served on the mental health wellness task force. I got wellness recovery activities going at Berkeley Mental Health, and I've been leading field trips. There's no place to do any, what I wanted to do, movement ritual, where people could actually embody and work with their health in creative and integrative ways. It would be very easy to fund something to get us into a community center, but the gist of my comments now is I'm feeling really used, abused. I think mental health is about learning to establish healthy boundaries and relationships, and I think a mental health division for the city of Berkeley that expects us to, you know, not have access to this, be part of this, be compensated. This is a field trip I led, I want to pass it around in April. I don't think there should be a problem with stipends for, you know, the programs that we're leading. And so and also there's an issue about, I just think our program is very isolated within Berkeley Mental Health. I don't know how to get to the funds. That's what either I'm gonna do that and figure out a way to make a proposal or to get the support I need, or really, I just feel, wow, I wasted 13 years really thinking. I have a master's in health, physical education, and recreation from the Ohio State University. I've taught in college for 3 years. I've taught at high school. I've taught little kids. I'm very talented, as well as some of the people that I work with, and I think we're leaders. There's mental health crisis in this country, so I see all this, and here I am trying to put it together. I had a meeting with Steve. I've never felt so disempowered in my life, and I don't think he meant anything, but it's like there's no way to get to where we need to go. It's different. Mental Health Services Act is about change, and it shouldn't be constrained by City of Berkeley employment policies. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to transform mental health, which is a community and global crisis. Thank you. Okay, that's enough, you've heard enough. Thank you very much for listening to me. And, you know.
Anyone else want to speak, please?
I'm not this much sure. I was a commissioner from, was it 2002 till 2007. But I'm still appalled that I saw last month's minutes about the device that police want to use on clients. And I talked to Shelby in the elevator. I was like, oh my God, they can put a mask on a client when they're having a crisis coming to the hospital. It's like, I've been traumatized by the system. That's just a lovely thing. So we're animals now. One would just put us in little cages in the back of an animal control truck. I mean, it's appalling. It's freaking appalling. I find that, you know, and people get traumatized in the hospital. The last time I was in the hospital 8 years ago, I was strangled in the hospital. And then that's supposed to be a therapeutic setting. And I actually got left in the hospital a week longer because I got attacked. So that's how, I just find it appalling, and then people say, oh, you get better in the hospital. Well, not necessarily, especially if you go to some of these hospitals that are not very, it's not therapeutic when you get assaulted multiple times. It's not therapeutic. It's downright scary. In that same hospital, a psychiatrist got killed. So, you know, anyhow, so I find this whole thing, that police even think that's a solution, to put a device on a client to further traumatize them when they're having difficulties, very inhumane and it's appalling. It's just, it's shocking. You know, I haven't been keeping track of cop watch and all that and trying to take care of my physical health, because I actually am physically disabled. So I just find that really, you know, whatever. And my grandson had problems in Christmas, and they never did that to him. And I'm grateful he did not have to go through that experience. So I just find this whole thing is just, and it's people that don't have insurance that go through this. It's not people that have private insurance. They don't go through this. They don't have to do it. It's the poor people that have to deal with this. So they get to be re-triggered, and then people are condescending to them, and they get more of a roughed up reality than everybody else. You know, they don't get the tier of care that somebody has private insurance. They actually get treated with respect, and a lot of practitioners at BMH in the past did not respect their clients, and I'm glad that I'm not in BMH anymore, because it was horrendous. I came from another county in Southern California, and actually I'm more traumatized since I've been up here than when I lived down south. You know, it's alienating. You know, it's appalling. So I'm just saying that if you're gonna re-traumatize somebody by putting a device on them because they're mentally ill, you know, why don't you just put a little triangle on them as well? I mean, you know, let everybody know they're mentally ill. Anyways, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
I would like to speak to somebody called this one. I'm sorry, I know this is unusual.
You can ask.
Well, I need it pointed that way. Thank you. So sorry. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry. Sorry to make a big show of this, but I advocate, so I share my broadcast with the community so the community knows what's happening. Mostly I broadcast subject matter that's important to me, something that I've dealt with in the past with my family, or just something that I see out in our community as real problems, like with homelessness and other things that I see. Anyhow, my name is Christine Schwartz. I forget to say that. Christine Schwartz. I'm a twin. I do a lot of community work because I care on all of my free time and because I think it's worth doing, because I think it's better to do these things than things that are meaningless, because I really care, again, and I want to help if I can. The reason I'm speaking here right now, this moment, is because I'm having a huge problem here. I hear many things about mental illness and services that we have, that we don't have. I'm hearing all different kinds of stories, and I just want to know the truth, and I want to know how, if we don't have it, we can have it. How, if we have it, and people who can't access can access. How, people can get the services they need. It shouldn't be that difficult, and yet it is. It's terrible for me to see in our community a homeless person with mental illness who's not being served. And I know that it's not all that simple. I know that people have their rights to refuse service if they want to, but I really would like to know, what exactly is the service? What are we being funded for? What's after okay, please help me. Or, you know, because I hear stories that people go to John George, they get taken there from a 5150, for example. I know there's many types of cases, but for example, a 5150, and they get spit out. And for me, when somebody is experiencing something that they cannot get beyond themselves, and they are putting themselves at risk on the street, whether it be safety or a medical reason, what have you, you know, I think there's many things you could be exposed to on the street. Yes, please, thank you. It's very sad, it's very daunting, and I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't exist, because it does. And I think people who care see it, and they feel the same way I do, and they want to help. So what is the truth? What do we have? What are we funding? Please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, I just wanted to introduce myself. I am the consumer liaison currently over at Berkeley Mental Health, and so I was coming to visit the Mental Health Commission and just wanted to introduce myself and say hello.
Thank you. Hello.
Barbara? Thank you. Good evening. My name is Barbara White. I am Training and Diversity and Multicultural Coordinator for Berkeley Mental Health System of Care. And I just want to specify, system of care means that anybody that we interact with, our community partners, Albany County, and other collaborative groups that we deal with that help support our clients in all ways. So I made a packet with the information, I think most of it that was requested. And just so that you can look real quickly at what the Diversity and Multicultural Coordinator, the role is. And you'll see where it says Staff Training Coordinator too, because back in the day, these were two separate positions done by two separate people, and basically I've been required to do both jobs. So they basically do different things to a certain extent, although a lot of it entails training. So I don't know if you want to take a couple of seconds just to read those job descriptions or not. No?
Make your presentation,
Okay.
and then we have this, and we can take our time looking at it.
Well, so it was, you wanted information on the various types of trainings and workshops that I do and how we come about that. So if you look in your packet, we have a 2-year work plan that was devised by the training committee. That's one group. And the training committee, I think it's in here, it should be in here. Oh, it's on the second page. And so you'll see this 2-year training work plan. This particular, for the staff training committee, which I facilitate, and we meet alternate months. This basically looks more so at mental health and substance use disorder issues that we tend to do training for. And the diversity and multicultural piece, that's more of your cultural lens that we do training for your unserved, underserved, and inappropriate served populations, primarily, and emerging populations, because we always have to keep a lookout for emerging populations to make sure that we're providing services to those particular communities also. So this particular role that I'm in the city of Berkeley, it's a state position with all the counties, and they call it ethnic services managers. My position basically, I changed it a little bit because of the fact that I wanted to be more inclusive of diversity along with multicultural, because when you think of ethnic services, you think of just people of color, and we actually outreach to a lot of different populations and groups. TAY population, seniors, LGBTQ population, along with, like I said, other emerging populations that basically need our services also. So how we go about developing our training plan is basically we come up with topics and ideas that people basically may want to have training on. A couple years back, I actually did a staff training survey that I sent out to the staff, all the staff, to provide input as to what they wanted training in, and when it came to mental health, SUD, substance use disorder, and also cultural competency. And so a lot of those issues, they just circulate back again because we're always needing to make sure that we're training in some of those areas. So this is how we come up with our plan for what we're gonna work on. I actually put in your packet the national class standards because everybody who gets federal funding, and that's most governmental entities, whatever, because the money trickles down, should be using the class standards in order to operate. And and we've done training on the class standards too, and I tend to send them out periodically just to refresh people's memories around the class standards. And then you get into some of the different, you want to know about some of the different trainings we've had over the years. There's some that are just repeated every year. So I'll go with we do for the LGBTQ community, which we'll be having something in June. We do something for Black History Month, which we do in February. We do things, our May is Mental Health Month, we always do. And then the Latino community, which we're gonna be doing a big conference. They reached out to me because we did a conference last year and they really felt like they want more, so we're gonna be pulling together a committee, and that's how I work, because ideally I'm like the only person. I get a little bit of support from a clerical person, and the way I get work done is that I bring together committee members from different community groups. So if I'm working with the Latin community, I outreach to my Latin partners and bring them in. One of the things in this particular role is that I don't speak for other communities. I can speak for the African American community, I can speak as a woman, I can speak as a mother, but I don't speak for the Latino community, the LGBTQ community. I bring them in, I hear what they have to say, and I let them devise the training that they feel their community needs and information that they feel, that the mental health system needs to hear in order for them to be able to get the services they need. One of the things in the diversity and multicultural role is really about embedding and infusing culturally responsive services, which is really a hard job to do. Because first of all, nobody can be totally culturally competent, but to be culturally responsive just means to be open to hearing, understanding somebody else's needs from their cultural lens. You don't have to agree, disagree. It's something that you say as a somebody from the API community, you like your services this way or that. Well, then out of respect, then that's the type of service I should be giving you. That's what's going to help you, not my way of doing things. One of the push in this role, even on the state level, is really about trying to provide more community-defined practices. And one of the things that I've been working on is with the African American Holistic Resource Center and Community Hat and City Hat. And that's probably with the city strategic plan, champion and demonstrate social and racial equity. So it's a pipe dream, but there's been a group of people, including some city folks, and it's in the mayor's plan, and there's been some money to do a feasibility study, which has been done, and it's to look at having an African American Holistic Resource Center that will provide the African American community with services in a manner that they feel is respectful for their needs. Because as we know, or maybe not, African Americans are really heavy in our mental health system. And at the end of the day, we have a lot in our system, but are they really getting better? It becomes the issue, and most likely not. And that's from Alameda County. You can go to any place, if they have African Americans, they've got 1% of African Americans, and in their mental health system, they'll be the biggest number in their mental health system. So, speaking again as African American, we know there's something wrong with that system. We know it's not working. And that's the same thing for a lot of people of color. And in the diversity and multicultural role, it's about having a system that is culturally of people from different cultures. So in doing trainings, we've done trainings with different people. We did one with Tim Wise, which was beyond diversity, and we was looking at white privilege and the whole 9 yards and everything like that. We've done all kinds of trainings in regards to addressing other type of cultural issues with the API community, Asian community, API community, which is Asian Pacific Islander community, along with the Latin community. We've done the Muslim community. We've done, let's see who else, a bunch of different groups throughout the years, I'm just saying. But if you look at some of ours, so that's the cultural lens, and that becomes the thing. If somebody calls me up and say to me, oh, Barbara, could we put together a training or workshop on any particular issue pertaining to their community or whatever, I invite them in. If we can pull people together, if it makes sense, if it's something that we really need to look at, then I'm gonna work with them to try to address that issue and concern. Now, as far as with the staff training, we have other things that we're required to do. And so like law and ethics, we do that every year, law and ethics. We at Family, Youth, and Children's Services, sometimes they have specific needs that they want. So they wanted something on autism with kids. So I developed a training for that. They wanted something around anxiety. So they have specific needs, the adult population. They have concerns. They wanted something on, we're gonna be doing something on treating sex offenders. Everybody likes motivational interviewing. We've done like twice this year, we've done that. And then along with working with the school district, I do things along the lines of, we did a Black History Month talent show with students and stuff, and I think, Shirley, you were there, right? Yeah. So we did that to support the students and work with the school districts. I have partners in various places within the city to partner with and do different things with different populations. And I work with Albany County. We do some things together. We usually do our Pride event and training together. We do a Black History Month event also, and we do some other, there's another group that I work on about, if you'll see on that page, I'm like on, I don't know how many different committees and stuff with different groups. And then we've done some other trainings that will be coming up also. So between working with the staff on the staff training committee, the diversity and multicultural committee, and we do have consumers/clients involved with our diversity and multicultural committee. And we also have, I think, you're on our committee also, right? So we have commissions on the committee. We're opened up to have, like the Mental Health Services Act says, we should have people from the community, family, consumers, and other folks involved in helping us to develop our system so that it really is providing the services that our clients need. And my role is to train up the staff in order to do that. And so that's what I attempt to do.
Thank you so much, Barbara.
Sure.
I have a question,
Mm-hmm.
Barbara. You mentioned there will be a training or presentation involving the Latino community.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a date set for that yet?
No, we're gonna start meeting next month. So, yeah, we have a date. We're gonna do it for Latin Heritage Month, which is between September 15th to October 15th. More than likely, we're gonna do it at the end of the month. And so it was a Latin community member who said, oh, I really loved that conference last year. We need to have one every year. So I'll put you on the email. You can join the planning committee. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question. Now, I heard you in several instances you were talking about the trainings you've done for the African American community. Probably the highest number of inappropriately served and underserved are communities of color, young people who are lesbian, gay, and bisexual, sexual orientation. Who are you bringing or have you brought in who's addressed that?
Sure. So we work with Pacific Center, and they.
I want to know like who the person is at the Pacific Center because I've met with them.
Louise actually was, she's not there now, but Louise was on our diversity and multicultural committee for 8-9 years. And I worked with her on the Pride training committee. She's come in and did training for our staff numerous times. So,
You know, that's interesting because on May 11th of last year, there was a Pacific Center training for Alameda County. And I went to it all day. The only person that showed up was Steve for an hour and a half in the afternoon during the transgender training. And after that, I had, not only prior to that time, twice asked if a representative was gonna come from Berkeley Mental Health, nobody came. Then I was told in June that there was going to be a training. Well, it turned out it was the Pride Coalition for Alameda County, but it was more of a Pride celebration where young people actually attended it. What I'm really wondering about is, in terms of capacity building in this area, when have people from your staff actually been trained not only in mental health issues related to sexual orientation, but other ones that are connected to sexuality, like Hep C, HIV, and STDs? There's a lot of different public health issues that come up in the mental health context. So I'm sort of wondering, who are the people that come in to address that, and how is your staff trained for that capacity?
so we have a medical department, and so the medical department would oversee that particular piece. I think Jeff would oversee that if he felt a need for us to have that type of.
I don't think that we necessarily would have those specific things you're talking about, Margaret.
Because it's
Just talking
public
about the
health.
specific ones on Hep C or something like that.
It's the first thing is who, in terms of communities of color, has trained the staff in terms of LGBT, not transgender, so that in terms of serving those folks, because there are quite a few that go to Yale. There are people who are adults at Berkeley Mental Health. I mean, who has trained the staff to serve these young people and adults?
So let me just say, so because again, we're working with unserved, underserved, inappropriate served, which is a whole lot of populations. So we basically, I will do trainings for different populations during different time frames. And if staff asks for a particular training, then I will do that. But I don't specifically focus on one particular piece as you're indicating about Hep C and all that.
No, but what I'm
Okay.
first getting at is communities of color, young people, adults, who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and they have like some of the highest mental health issues out there. Who are you using to train staff to serve this group of people?
So we provide other trainings. So I don't only put trainings together, but when I see trainings, I send the information to staff also, so they can sign up and go to different trainings that other people give. Not only,
I think what we're trying to get at is, that if we're reaching to have a staff capacity that is culturally responsive and also responsive to all kinds of other issues, who on staff, or maybe, let me frame it differently, have staff requested specifically a training on how to work with LGBTQ community and youth?
so as far as specifically, I haven't gotten a specific request for that. However, the Pride Coalition Alameda County, which I'm on that committee, so we have done trainings year in and year out on different topics. And not only that, but we also put together we got the county to add to their intake form information on sexual orientation.
Well, I was gonna
also.
give that.
I want to give all the commissioners an opportunity to, we can also ask,
Okay.
send in questions
Okay.
afterwards
Okay.
that we want answers for, but I do want to give all the commissioners an
Okay.
opportunity to be able to ask Barbara questions.
I was just curious, that one, I don't remember what the name of that, and if it was a training or if it was just for information, but it was the cancer and African-American population. Was that part of, no?
That was one of my
different.
community.
Oh, okay. That was also a very good,
Yeah, that was one of my community events and stuff like that. So,
Hi, I'm very happy that you came here. As I look through this and I listen to you, an area that I have a real passion and an interest in is bringing mental health to the community as a whole. And all of these workshops, et cetera, don't seem oriented to training and educating our community about mental health issues. And yet our community is constantly wrapping around our mental health community. The people who are not consumers are constantly wrapping around them, as we should be. But there's no sense from the department or in these trainings that you're reaching this part of our community that wants to help, that should help, and desperately need an education about mental health in their community. They essentially are in our community, and I'm talking again not about consumers, who are around consumers all the time and don't know anything about mental health. And I'm asking, and I'm asking the department, I'm asking you as someone putting together programs, to please put together something that educates our community so that we can help.
So Paul, I just want to remind you that we talked about it before. We are doing that on a regular basis. We do mental health first aid, which is the nationally adapted standard for educating community members on being able to help folks. We've been doing that for multiple years. We do it without any funding to be doing it. We have multiple staff that are trained as trainers for that. They put this event on multiple times. I think they may have, I'm sure they've invited the Mental Health Commission to attend these trainings before. I think some of you have attended these trainings before. This is something we are doing on a regular basis. We're sending 2 additional staff to get trained as trainers in terms of that. We also have staff and put on mental health first aid for youth trainings. We've been doing that throughout Berkeley Unified School District, and we've supported other efforts where we've given money to both preschools and to DUSD for them to train staff as mental health first aid for youth trainers. So I agree it's a priority. I just wanted to remind you it's something that we are doing on a regular basis and will continue to do because we completely agree it's a very important piece. If you feel like there's a segment of the population that isn't aware of these trainings, I would be happy to connect you to the folks that put on the trainings because they often do a specific one for a particular population group who might feel most comfortable doing that training together in terms of that piece. And we'd be happy to do that.
And then the other piece I just want to say is that these trainings, very few trainings are closed. So these trainings are usually open now. The lead parent gets the copies and sends to you guys. And it's open to the community. And I have different community folks that I send stuff to. So it's usually open, but a lot of trainings are during the weekdays and maybe people can't come. But we do have residents that attend also the trainings.
But I appreciate your response, Steve, and I appreciate your response as well. The bottom line for me is that I live in this community and I don't see the results of that at all. And that lack of results within the community is a very serious issue. Berkeley is a community that has a very large population of people in the streets, unsheltered, unhoused, as well as people in the hills. But in general, again, our community is not trained in how to be helpful in any way.
So Paul, and I hear what you're saying. So I've been with the city since 2002. So in 2004, I started May as Mental Health Month, which was actually designed to basically bring the community in, have speakers, and different not workshops, but speakers and different panels. And we've been doing that now since 2004. So, and it's only one time a year, but that's something we've been doing consistently, and it was for exactly what you're saying, because I seen the need then to educate the community about mental health. So it's a small thing, but we have so many populations that we need to address and help out with, and at the end of the day, we don't have enough money to do all of that, so I try to do the best I can, and when people tell me that their community needs this, that, and the next, then I go and try to help and support.
Paul,
We have about 5 to 7 minutes. I just want us to be fair to commissioners who have not asked a question.
But
Steve, after you answer, I want to be sure.
I just wanted to make sure, so I meant what I said. I know you're out there in the community working with folks, so please take me up on that. You're connected to those people that you think need training. we have a way of supporting them with training. Let's use that. If after that, you feel like, oh, that's not sufficient, then we can have a conversation about what else. This is the evidence-based one that's adopted nationally, but let's actually try and move that forward.
All right, thank you. I think I heard a little something more than that, is that all of us living in Berkeley on a daily basis are walking the streets, and hopefully more of us have empathy to actually make contact with people, but many of us don't because of the fears that exist. And I think that kind of larger, wider net, I think, might be what Paul is trying to get at. And also those of us who are out there, foot soldiering. Thank you. Thank you.
I just was wondering like when the next training is, because I wanted to do it before and I wasn't able to, and I wanna go. And I think, we just need, and I'd be willing to have one in District 2 besides the one that I wanna go to, so that we can get community to do it as well. Because I think it's real neat, because people are, I mean, with the whole RV thing and the banning the sidewalk ordinance, and, I mean, banning the RV and the sidewalk ordinance, and just like hearing the testimony, it's just like people are afraid of people with mental illness, or people are afraid of homelessness, people that are unhoused, it's just like, to me, it's, people are people, people are human beings, we're all human beings. There's nothing to be afraid of, I mean, I used to be fearful, but not of that, but, I used to have more fears. I don't know, somehow I've gotten a lot more courage in now that I'm a council person, but, I think just people need to be educated, and because just because they have a mental illness, that doesn't mean you can't say hello, or ask if you're okay, or something. So I think it would be great.
To make sure that you know when the next training is and see if we can schedule one, okay?
And I just want to say real quick too, to follow up on that, one of the things I've embedded in our May's Mental Health Month is the video contest that we do, and we do a different topic every year, and that's to educate youth about different mental health topics. So this year, the video contest is on mental health and homelessness. Last year, it was on mental health and bullying. Before, it was on mental health and suicide. And so I provided a bunch of information, websites, and whole 9 yards to train up so that the students can get information on mental health and incorporate it more so into their daily life and understanding.
When is that contest?
Oh, it's going on now.
It's going on now, and they'll be presenting at the May's Mental Health Month.
Shirley?
And then, Ben, if you have a question, Shelby.
My concern is accessibility, Barbara. I've made a point of attending some of the events that your department has sponsored. And as a family member and a consumer, I felt I'm the odd person out. What I've seen at these gatherings, when we're talking about bringing in the community, what I've seen at these gatherings are providers that Berkeley Mental Health work with. What I've seen is family members of staff. What I've seen is people who are collaborating with Berkeley Mental Health, who are being awarded the RFPs, and my question always in the back of my head is, what efforts is being done to bring in, like you say, you have committees, what efforts are being done to bring in the very people that you're building for? And that has always been a question in my mind, because I've intentionally gone to the different events, and over and over and over, this is the people in attendance. And I know that you have to have good relationships with the people that you work with, but I don't think that it's appropriate to use money and resources to pay for that collaboration. I think that money and those resources should be given, or should be extended to the clients, And the one thing that got me was last year, a couple of years ago, was the Black History event. It was held all the way at the marina. People don't even have money to get down there. Another event that you had was at night at his lordship's. At night, how many consumers are gonna, with no public transportation, go, be able to get to his lordship's for a, dinner? It was just like a full-scale dinner. And I was there, and I saw for myself who was in attendance there. And I was just uncomfortable with that.
So I'm just gonna say, we actually had staff pick up clients and bring to that event. And the issue of I can only use the locations we can use. There's not a lot of big locations.
But I would just like to see more.
So there's only but so many locations you can use.
Right.
And so once you start getting over 80, 90 people, you're limited to the places you can use. So that's one of the bigger places in Berkeley that we can use. And that I use, that and Ed Roberts. To use Clark Kerr, you're talking about money, you're talking about some money up at Clark Kerr. And
So
that's
it's
hard
like
and that's
the
hard
cost.
for people to get to. When we have events, one of the things we do, we make arrangements for our clients to get there, and we put out notices, staff talks to clients and bring them to the different events. And I know when I was the AOD coordinator years ago, we used to bring clients to everything, and people pick them up, and they still pick them up now. So I'm not sure, maybe it's not the numbers that you might want to see, but we have clients at our events also.
I just want to let the commission know that I'm gonna have to move on
Okay.
with
And
the agenda.
and the night event that you had was the big gala, the Mayor's Mental Health Month, and we clearly had a lot of clients there. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very
Sure.
much.
Thank you.
We need to adopt.
Oh, let's go back again to approve the minutes.
And so
We
we
all
talked through
understand.
this, so at a previous meeting, you adopted a resolution that you've now added some language to
Yeah,
that
that I'm aware of.
resolution.
I was asking
And
if I
so,
should do it together
so,
or,
so the whole council item, you've got that resolution on it. So if you want to just have a motion out there to approve the council item that's got that new language in the resolution, then you're done.
if you go
It
to
just,
the
it
last
covers the new
page,
stuff you've added.
if you go to the last page, we added,
It's just a suggestion.
and the resolution that we have already approved, I believe. And then we added one sentence to it, so it needs to be reapproved.
Yeah, you need to withdraw the other one and then adopt this one. Can you point to the sentence?
Yeah, we added, the first, therefore be it resolved that law enforcement shall not use restraint devices such as spittles in the line of duty. The second one, therefore be it resolved that law enforcement shall only use their own N95 masks or an equivalent substitute in the line of duty was already in the first one, from memory. Okay. But if we withdraw the first one and then get a motion to withdraw the first one and then vote on this one, then we're done, and this can go to council right away.
She only, no, she wrote down, and this is all.
No, we're attaching the two pages.
Okay.
So can I get those motions in that order, please?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to withdraw the original and to replace it with, this item that we have in front of us today.
Okay.
Can I
The
just
resolution.
Sure.
walk through that language?
Yes.
Just make sure, so, because there's a council item in front of us and there was just a resolution before.
Okay,
So are you saying, you just wanna make sure? You wanna make a motion to withdraw the original resolution and approve this council item?
Yeah, approve and accept this council item before us today.
And I second that? Yeah, can she read it back,
And we need a second on it, right?
She seconded.
Yeah.
Or Linda second?
So roll call, please.
motion?
Yeah, the motion is to withdraw the original resolution, and approve and accept this council item before us today. Do you wanna, can I just, I'm gonna throw something in here.
Yes, go ahead.
You could say, a motion to withdraw the original resolution of the Mental Health Commission approved on February 28th, blah, 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 regarding this,
Spit hoods.
yeah, and, or you can leave it as it is. It's just a little more clear.
It was
March
March.
20th, so
Just
I'll
making a
withdraw the
suggestion.
resolution
We'll
on the
whichever
spit
date it was.
hoods, from March 28th, Mental Health Commission meeting. And approve the, what's it called? The council item, for law enforcement use of restraint devices in the city of Berkeley for the June 25th, 2019 council meeting.
So, and I apologize, but you guys can do what you want. I just want to say, I think that's actually not what occurred. On March
Oh.
28th, you guys passed the
Exactly, I was
background
gonna say
material.
the same.
The resolution
The
was on
resolution
previous
was in
date.
February.
February.
Yeah, February.
Yeah.
I think if you just said, if you just want to say, withdraw the resolution which is previously passed regarding split
Right.
hoods,
Yeah.
and replace it with the council item, including a new resolution that's in front of you today, you're good.
Okay, that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, I'm gonna just get that on tape, because I don't know if you can repeat what you said. We got this lovely Christine, and I have it here too, so I'm just gonna, so is everyone okay with what Steve said?
Yes.
It's basically the premise of withdrawing what you guys approved in February on the resolution, and just approving this full council item that includes the new language, okay? So that's Cheryl's
Motion.
motion, and Linda, are you still the second?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna do roll for Linda.
Yes.
I mean, the call. Una?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Shelby?
Aye.
Paul?
Yes.
Tim?
Yeah.
And Shirley?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for working so hard on this. I mean, this is quite a step that we're taking. And we're hoping that people in the community will come out. So when it gets on the council agenda, we will do some outreach into the community to make sure that council gets to hear from people who have either witnessed these incidents. I hope there aren't too many people who actually have to go through the experience of having one used against them. The next item is night of celebration. We have passed the final copy of the annual report, and I want to just, and everyone has it tonight? Yeah, I'm gonna cover all of that. So I want to just share with you what the process has been, so, and some of you have been part of that process. We've been working very hard on this, and our intention was to create something that informs the council and the community about our work from this year, not this year, in 2018, and then look at the accomplishments that we made, the outcomes, and then also come up with priorities in each of the goals of the work plan. And between listening very carefully to everyone that speaks at this commission meeting and hearing the kinds of things that each member has brought up, we wanted to make sure that those voices were also in this document. We also used quite a bit of the research and writing that Margaret has done. Margaret and I have been the two people that have sort of been carrying this for a couple of months now, and have literally put in a lot of work. So I want to thank you, Margaret, for hanging in there. And
We're still alive.
we're still alive. And, you know, we had our moments, but we worked through them and wanted to bring an excellent piece of work to this commission. It sort of sets the direction for the next 2 years. And what was very interesting was that
in the diversity committee, we looked at the priorities, for that particular goal, and then having the presentation today, it's like, you know, we're all thinking about how to make things better, how to reach more people, how to be more inclusive. So, we're very proud of this, and on behalf of the commission, we'll be submitting this to council, and, it'll be on our website, and available to the department, available to the community, available to whoever wants it. We're hoping that it'll get a good read, and it also sort of lets the department know there's a clean copy for you, Steve, if you want. We took that off. So, thank you again, and thank you, Erlinda, for kind of keeping an eye on us. So we didn't self-destruct the process. Yes, please.
This is from everybody. We took all the names off, and if people did not come to meetings, if we didn't have a quorum, if we didn't hear from people, this couldn't exist.
Yeah.
So we just want to emphasize that there is it's just clean and nice and doesn't need to mention anything except for it's from us.
Linda?
I would like to commend, Bruna and Margaret. This is a very well written, very well organized, very well put together, in my opinion, annual report. And you can tell by reading it that it took an enormous amount of work by the two of you. And it's something that you guys can be very proud of.
And I just want to say,
Sure.
I'm very pleased with the report, and to me, it's an example of, you know, years come and go, but I've been here for 8 years, and I've never seen a document like this. I feel like, unfortunately, the commission was used for the wrong reasons, year in and year out. But I'm very hopeful that with the commissioners we have now, who are willing to work and not set up smoke screens, and actually work for the clients, I'm feeling really good about this. You know, and it's been an educational process for me, you know, and I'm just very happy that we will see work now. Because some years I felt at the end of the year, it was just a continuation of a fruitless, stupid, personal vendetta, back and forth, back and forth. And now I feel that this is the beginning of work for the clients in Berkeley Mental Health.
I just wanted to say that this is like an awesome, I was reading this last night and I was like, wow. I was so impressed, and I was really grateful to everyone that put in, and I know you two did a lot of the work, you know, yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. And then on the accountability committee,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, y'all are just great, and I appreciate all the work that you do, especially Margaret, sending us all those reference materials to read, and, you know, all your research and everything. It's just really great.
Thank you.
We have, I just wish other organizations could be dysfunctional and
Well, we're gonna
getting
set
some
an
stuff
example.
done, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have to prove this.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
We can, which is.
Yeah, who wants to make the motion to approve it?
Please,
Approve this, beautiful annual report for 2018.
And submit it to the.
Submit it to Berkeley City Council. Is it in the
And I'll
format
send
that
it.
it needs to be in?
Excuse me?
Is it in the format that it needs to be in to get
It
to
will need
council?
it will
Yeah,
just need
the
the
cover.
council item to be written, to be, and then this will be attached.
Okay,
So whoever will be writing that, so.
Yeah, I'll be writing it.
The chair writes that.
Okay,
So,
no, my motion is to accept this report to go to city council with the city council item that Belinda's gonna report. Right.
And I will ask her.
Okay.
I'm very good
I'll
at that.
help you.
And I second that,
okay,
motion.
so can we go back to the motion a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Just make sure.
Reword it in the right way.
That's
Go
okay,
ahead.
it's okay. You started with a motion to approve the
Sorry.
annual report and submit it to city council. I think that's enough, because it,
She ended with the report.
With the distance. You just.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hopefully for the consent calendar.
Someone needs a
I
second.
think it's even made an information. I
Yeah,
don't
it
know.
was just received as an information item.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I'll go ahead and, so that was Cheryl and then Shirley?
Yes.
Second, okay.
Yes.
So I'll do the call. Belinda?
Yes.
Una?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yeah.
Margaret?
Yes.
Shelby?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ben?
Yeah.
And Shirley?
Yes.
Pass.
So the next step is that we're gonna take the recommendations piece and, we're going to revamp, not change the goals at all of the work plan, but we're gonna take the priorities set in this, and then put the priorities in, and then the next steps that we will be taking to ensure that in the next 2 years, these priorities have been addressed. And that could take many forms. But we're gonna ask all of you to just really keep working together like we have this past year. And that way we'll attract more people from the community to come and sit on this commission as commissioners when they see us actually doing work. And Cheryl, I hope that you will, ask every council person to read this. You know, I am.
What say you?
I'm sure.
I can't ask every council, but you could send it to all council.
Yeah,
It will be in the packet anyway.
and to the city manager, like it was done last year, and we followed the same procedure. Now, all of a sudden, I got really sleepy. That's 'cause of you.
We're tired.
Discussion and possible action on subcommittee reports, site visit. We met last week, and I'm putting a little bit of a stop for a moment on what we were planning to, do in June was to have a focus group with consumers of Berkeley mental health, so that they could, adult consumers of Berkeley mental health, past and present, we hope, so that we could get feedback on the services, but also raise the question that if they were to design the system, what would they want that system to look like? Because, you know, systems get created, and then people come into the system. Rarely do consumers have, opportunities where
To weigh in.
they create
To weigh
the
in.
system
Yeah.
and say, this is what we would like to see now delivered for us. So hopefully, we're running into a few, you know, little, we're not sure whether our flyer will have to go to council to be approved before we can put it out in the community. No, there's another question that has come up is that we, because we're a commission holding a focus group, we actually might have to notice the whole community. And so I was like, so
These are things that are.
it's gonna come to you.
These are questions
So
that,
you don't have to
these are questions
answer
that
them
are in
tonight.
front of the city clerk as we speak to get an
Yeah.
answer on.
And-
Because, anything that's of,
Yeah.
subcommittee, work has to be noticed, which means anyone could come and sit in on the focus groups and hear, which may, just have an implication on
Yeah, I mean-
disclosures that you wanna have with the clients and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
it
we've
would
got that in
really
front of the city clerk and we're.
handcuff us. So when you guys have an answer, please let us know, and
And the
we're
city
just,
attorney or just the city clerk?
Right now, the city clerk, and I was gonna talk to Steve about it after, but it's just, this is just a
so
starting
just
point. so.
heads up that, I'm moving forward the Sunday meeting with the graphic artist to put the flyer together. So we're gonna keep moving ahead, and then as these things get resolved, then we'll just, you know, hopefully it will be June, But if for some reason it has to go to council, it might be September or October. So, and what also keeps coming up at the site committee is the desire to visit programs. And that's the next thing. I'm very much into take one thing, work on it, complete it, and then add another thing, so the work sort of keeps moving forward instead of getting diffused. So that's the site visit committee diversity.
We met and we discussed three things. We reviewed the priorities that are listed in the annual report on page 12. We had discussion about those. We reviewed them so we could move forward. We decided that we're going to make a list of the documents we will be requesting from Berkeley, from Steve. And finally, we also, we discussed possible recommendations that we may decide to make, and we're gonna be going through that, and we'll have, at some point in the future, we'll have a list of recommendations to present to the commission, to approve making to the city council. And that was it.
Thank you. Adeline, what's yours?
We also took a look at the annual report, and the three of us just went through to familiarize ourselves again and to look. I mean, this has been fleshed out a lot to just try to get all the errors and everything out of it. That's what we did in diversity, that's what we did in accountability. Especially because, you know, throughout the year that subcommittee has looked at different things like integrating primary and secondary care, fiscal accountability. So we just tried to make sure that it's inclusive of everything that we've talked about and brought to the commission to report on. And the next thing, we'll be getting a work plan out there so everybody can participate in what our plans are to do next. And we know you're gonna still come, right, Shirley?
Yes, I'll let you know in a minute.
Okay. You may take a good step.
I'll let you know in a minute.
Membership? I know the two of you have been talking, so.
Well, we made a list of 26 places. Shirley and I have talked, we did not meet this month. We have a lot of work to do.
I had strep throat, they didn't wanna meet with me.
I'm surprised.
I didn't say that, I'm playing with them. I didn't wanna meet with me.
I have something to say. I brought a
Please.
possible recruit here this evening, so.
Oh, great, and I recruited one person who has already contacted Karen, so we're moving.
Do you wanna introduce her?
I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing, and I've been having trouble hearing some of you.
We just wanna, you can introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Glenn Turner. I'm the mother of a daughter who recently died, but she had schizoaffective disorder. She did not think she was ill. She got kicked out of every place she ever lived. She ended up in jail, Santa Rita. She was homeless for 3 years in Oakland at 13th and Mandala. I helped housing her, I did caregiving for her, and then she died 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Sorry.
And it was heart disease, so, you know, the lifespan of mentally ill, untreated. This is seriously mentally ill. I've been active with a group called Voices of the Mothers. I've also connected, until recently, I've retired a little bit from direct group action, but there's a lot of people who are very concerned about John George and the lack of housing for the seriously mentally ill. I'm not talking about people who feel kind of depressed or bad or anxious. I'm talking about people who are delusional, who live in a totally different world. And so, you know, basically they're closing all the residential care places. There's been some recent chronicle things about the closing of the board and cares, and there's fewer and fewer of them. And so this is like basically the very, short-term, motel rooms are very expensive. So I've been seeing these people. I go to the homeless village near my business at 42nd Overstreet, overpass near Telegraph Avenue. And so, a lot of these people who are homeless are seriously mentally ill. Plenty of them in the RVs are just fine. They just don't have a job that will pay enough except to live in their car. So there's a very big distinction, and I'm pretty passionate about the seriously mentally ill. It's such a strain for the families. It's so hard for them themselves. Laura's Law got, there's now, I think, 4 beds in Alameda County. Contra Costa County cut the top, went really a great way. They have 10 beds. We're looking at a drop in the bucket. And John George is shrinking, and it's just a revolving door for all the 5150s of our urgently disabled family members, and so that's who I am. That's my story.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Moving on.
Shirley,
Yes, I asked to be put on the agenda because I'm terming out. This is my last meeting officially as commissioner. What I wanted to say is that I'm just very grateful to the staff of Berkeley Mental Health for allowing me to participate as a consumer, first of all, and as a family member over the years. I've been on the commission for 8 years, and it's been truly a learning experience for me. I came straight out of, and I'm still very active in, the consumers movement in Alameda County, the pool of consumer champions. I was groomed, as you could say, by my mentor, Jay Mahler, when I moved to Berkeley. The first thing he said was, well, they have a commission for mental health. And at first, I really wasn't wanting to, because I was so involved in Alameda County, I didn't want to come into Berkeley. But it was almost like I was assigned. Beautiful assignment, because I had just completed the Best Now program, and this is my teacher. I had just graduated from Best Now and did a 3-month internship at Berkeley Mental Health. And it's just, like you go from one thing to another. And I was just experienced, I was one of the first chairpersons for our group's steering committee, and we developed our bylaws, just learning how to participate on a board, right? So when I came into here to Berkeley Mental Health, it was just like a continuing education for me as an individual to learn how to work in the system. And that's what I've always wanted to do. How can I be a voice for the voiceless? And that's my goal. I will always not do it. I'm not coming just for Shirley or for my son who has mental health issues. I'm coming because I always want to be a voice for those who, for whatever reasons, are not at this table. Mm-hmm. And I did that, and over the years, I've paid dearly for taking that position. I've been personally attacked. People have accused me of being, interestingly enough, racist.
Wow.
But I fought back every single, I was not gonna allow anything to deter me from what I considered my obligation to speak for consumers like myself and family members. And I just want to, I'm not the easiest person to get along with, So I know I've been a thorn in a lot of people's side. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to stay as a commission, you know, and voting me for my different terms as the vote came up, because I could have been voted out. But I'm just excited because now I get to come as a community member. You know, I live in Berkeley. I'm a senior. I'm a person of color, and I'm still active in the pool of consumer champions, which is, you know, we operate out of Alameda County. And we started as Marilyn would attest to, we started the consumer movement. And the only thing that I'm saddened about still, after 8 years, the only thing that I am saddened about is Berkeley, for whatever reasons, and I was so naive when I first came. I thought just because it was Berkeley, it was just gonna be radical, and it was just gonna be about change. And much to my amazement, I realized that, first of all, it was very political. And that was a shock to me, that everything operated by politics. And when I got over that shock, the other thing that I got that really saddened me was the fact that for whatever reasons, and I don't know if other commissions are operated like that, but Berkeley Mental Health is not consumer driven, not family driven, but it's staff driven. And I suspect it because it has a strong union, and to me, it's worked against the clients that are being served. And I take strong opposition to that. I will always be sometimes the only one saying that, but to me, it has to be said. You know, it has to be said. The reason it happens like that, when you heard this lady talk about volunteering of her time, being stipend maybe.
No.
Yeah,
They're
maybe.
refusing.
And now she being promised possibly a job in the system, and now she's having to come to the commission to ask, what do I do next? That's sad. You know, she shouldn't even be here asking for support. It should have been done immediately. She should have been phased into Berkeley Mental Health as a staff person, you know. And so those are the things that to me still have to be resolved. And the political part, I don't know about that. You know, I think that, you know, it's gonna be, I think the consumers, when they've had enough of not getting what they have coming to them, I think maybe they will become more active, you know. And so I leave with hope, and I'm going to continue to come as, like I said, as a consumer, family member, and now a citizen of Berkeley. But I want to say this past year, I'm very pleased with these three ladies that have come on. Because they have added something that was really needed on this commission. And that's people who know how to analyze, collect data, and put it in a format where we can advocate for the people that we're supposed to represent. So I'm moving forward. I won't give up. This year I'm turning 75 years old, and I'm just too old to give up. I can't change. I can't change. And when you reach my age, you really just don't give a damn. I'm thinking about Gone with the Wind. I watch a lot of TV too. But, you know, really, I'm just really pleased. I had reservations. Paul will know that too. At the meetings when we were talking about bringing on people, and it's like, yeah, but I'm pleased. this past year. I've been very pleased, and I think it's really a lesson for me not to make assumptions about people, but to wait and see how things evolve. You know, that's the lesson I've learned this year. And I'm just very pleased with the composition of this commission. And I know a lot of work is gonna be done. And I too am I'm recruiting, hopefully, a person of color, because I personally cannot leave this commission without having an adult person of color to take my place. And that's what I'm trying to do. And the last time the person was here, and was introduced, I felt that this ugly head of racism popped up, and, you know, but I had to go back and, you know, the person is strong enough, and I think that they said they couldn't make it this time, but I really believe that they will be putting an application in. And I say if the application comes in, a person may come in not knowing what the commission is about, what their role is going to be, but I think that we owe it to everybody in Berkeley Mental Health to have a diverse commission.
Yes.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Very touched with everything that you've done in the county. Mental health manager updates for April.
You guys have their report. Have any questions?
I didn't have any. We do have Rita House coming next month, correct? Because I thought I saw the email through that she had said. Oh, yeah, for a while, yes. Yeah. My God, our meetings are getting shorter and shorter, I love it. Working Mental Health Services Act, update, Karen?
Okay, yeah, so I've done a couple of, handouts for you guys. One of them I have already sent you by email. I'm gonna go ahead and hand this out. This is also going out to the community. It's basically, I'm getting ready to do the community input meetings for the FY20 annual update. That means there's no plan that's been written yet. This is just me going out to the community and kind of like saying, here's our ideas of what we think we're going to do, and just getting what the community has to say about that. So this is the schedule of the meetings. The first one is next Wednesday on May 1st. And I'm going to pass that around so you actually have one, and the community can get one too. But I thought you guys could hear sort of the new things we're thinking about right now. And this is just very preliminary. These presentations that are going to be done are not even going to have numbers to it, because we're still figuring out numbers about where we're at. We had a new financial system that implemented in the middle of the year. Some of the stuff has gotten pulled over, some not, so there's a lot of reconfiguring of stuff to have to make sure everything is exactly right. So these presentations, we want to keep things as much on track as possible. So the presentations to the community will not have figures on it. Of course, the final plan that goes out for a 30-day public review will. And so for right now, I'm going to hand this out as well. This is a slide actually from the presentation. So what the presentation is going to entail is basically our annual update for FY19 is on the web. And you guys approved it, and you've got commentary in there and everything, and you did a vote on it. So we're proposing to continue everything that's in that annual update. And then these are the two slides that show the things that we are proposing to add. And the things that we're proposing to add are to, as you all know, that the Homeless Outreach and Treatment Team has done a pilot project. For 3 years, there was an evaluation that was done that was very favorable, had some really good outcomes from the team, and so what we're proposing to do is to make this a permanent project. a permanent full-service partnership team through community services and supports funding and MHSA. Another thing that we are proposing to do is to add a social service specialist. That's just one of our classifications of position, to increase division capacity to serve individuals with substance abuse disorders. So they would just focus primarily on that across the system. And then adding in another assistant management analyst to support division-wide logistics and outcomes. This is mostly supporting the new assistant mental health manager in all the different things that that position holds, and also outcomes for the system. And then we have a project, actually a contract with the Hearing Voices. It's called Hearing Voices and their support groups. And we had a proposal last year that came through to increase this for youth. And so what we're going to propose in this plan is to increase some funding for that to be implemented so we can do youth Hearing Voices support groups, or they can for us. And then going on to the second slide, we want to provide funding for the Russell Street Board and Care for subsidies. And provide funding to our Health, Housing, and Community Services Aging Services Division to have counseling services at the senior centers. So that's going to fall out. We've had some limited services there, here and there, and through different contractors over the years, and different things to happen. And they have some staffing, but we want to increase that capacity. Yes.
Tell me what this initial stand for again, that went by kind of
Sure.
fast.
The HHCS?
Yeah.
It's Health, Housing, and Community Services. And that's actually the department that the mental health division is in.
Oh, is that the same department that has the social workers, for the seniors?
So aging is also in the.
Yeah, so it holds like about 5 different divisions, and aging is one of them, mental health is one of them, public health is one of them.
Yeah, those social workers with aging are part of that.
All right, thank you.
And then we wanted to fund a planning process. I think Steve had talked to you guys about this before, I think at last month's meeting, for a site for integrated primary care for homeless and severely mentally ill population. So that's integrated physical and mental health services. So it's funding a planning process to think about that, and Steve could talk more about that because he's been involved in.
Well, it's really to work with Lifelong, who's proposing this possibility and running one in Oakland, and to see if we can get one going in Berkeley. And so it's to try and make what is an idea, kind of move it towards reality in Berkeley. And in order to do that, to be able to, actually what we fund is the city manager's office, so that they could do this process in terms of this. So it would be having money for the city manager's office to support the planning for that. There's been some preliminary meetings with Lifelong in the city about this, and it's something that I think everyone would like to make happen. Totally. So hopefully it's something we can.
That's great.
Yeah. And then the other piece is that, we have some contractors that have been funded for 5 years or more, and we, as part of the city process to make it fair to all contractors out there, all community-based organizations, we regularly re-RFP those particular services so that other contractors could bid on the work. Could be that some of the same contractors win it. If we don't get bids from other contractors, we'll see. But what we're planning is to go ahead and fund them for another year through this cycle, but during that year, we set up for next year that we've had the RFP done and we know whether they're going to continue or a new contractor. So those are just the main things that we're looking at right now, nothing more than that. We've had a few ideas to come in, but this is sort of what we're proposing. And again, what you'll see if you come to one of those meetings is a repeat of all the services that we have now, and these 2 slides of what we're proposing that we're going to do again. So you're welcome to come to those meetings, but I just wanted to kind of preview that first with you guys, and that's what that's about. One thing I also had.
Can I just add something real
Yes.
quickly? I think it's important for commissioners and those of us who sit on the MHSA subcommittee to come and have our presence known, because for whatever reasons, these community meetings sometimes are not well attended. And when you put, to me, it's just a waste of resources, time and money for Karen to do all that planning, set them up, you know, do all of this work. And the piece that we have to start doing is how we can get the community to show up. And that's been an issue. So, but I think it starts with us. We have to say as a commission, look, I'll take this day, you take that day, and at least the commission will be represented, at each one of the community meetings.
I just want to say the community planning process is part of the Mental Health Services Act. And Berkeley Mental Health, I agree with you, commissioners should go.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on the commission should go and see what is going on as far as the annual update. And I don't know, what's the first day the draft comes out?
Yeah, so that's gonna depend on, you know, whether we have our plan finished and ready to go by the end of May or the end of June. So it would be either the end of May or the end of June.
So anyway, you have this period where you have the community planning process, and they're required to have, you know, a number of meetings and to send announcements to stakeholders. There's a big stakeholder list. It's got like 40 different organizations. But under those regulations, it's up to the service provider really to make all this outreach. But like you're saying, I agree with you. We should not only go to those meetings, we should, if we can as a group, make comments and submit them. And we have done that in the past, but I feel like what I'm hearing from you would be even a step farther to synthesize what those comments are. I mean, I've read the FY19 annual update, actually probably several times. I just don't know in terms of the community planning. I know there's 2 slides here, but are you just gonna lift the text and put it into the next one, or? I mean, it seems like here we participate in a process, but we actually don't know. Usually you have a PowerPoint.
These are slides from the PowerPoint. No, those are just 2 slides.
Okay.
It's like about
very clear.
a 40 slide PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to.
And what the PowerPoint, just so people can kind of, you know, track, is the PowerPoint basically the plan will follow what's in the PowerPoint that the community has already seen. It's just going to say like, for our area of community services and supports, these are the programs that we're currently funding. For this pot of money, this is what we're proposing to add in. For PEI, these are the programs that we're funding. This is what we would propose to add in, et cetera, in each area. And so, so one thing I want to also say on the note of what Shirley's saying, I think I accidentally handed out the thing prematurely, but it's actually one way that I'm going to try to get input at May's Mental Health Month, at a peer event that Jamie's going to be attending.
Yeah, the 10 by 10.
Yeah. And different outreach for just different ways that the community can, it's just another way.
on Berkeley Considered?
So that's another thing. So that's another thing. So let me get to that. So this particular thing I handed out is one way that I'm outreaching to the community besides the annual update that kind of is in line with the annual update and can say, hey, what do you think we're missing? What do you think the community needs? Because a lot of times people don't come to these meetings, and it's not Berkeley. It's not just Berkeley. It's all across the state. There's whole entities looking at why people don't come out to these meetings and what counties should be doing to try to get other ways to have input. So this is one way. We're going to look at either having the plan or a link to the plan in a way to inform the plan on Berkeley Considers, the Berkeley site, or these questions. So so that's another way that we're trying to outreach. And then and so we're just trying to look at some additional ways, because we all know these meetings are not well attended, but I in earnest try to provide them and do a well canvas sort of like, please come, outreach, and if you want me to even come and do a private meeting with you, I'll do it, you know, with a small group. I put that out there. So, you know, it's just another way to try to get people to come out and really inform the plan, because in the end, the goal is that we want as many voices into this plan as possible. We don't want just a small bunch of people informing the plan. We want it to be well vetted in the community, and the community to have the opportunity to, when we are going to launch, they know exactly what is in there, and they feel feel like they've had the opportunity to inform that and to understand it and to ask questions and to give feedback and all that. So that's the, that is what is planning for this community input process. And the other piece is that's gonna continue all the year long. This is the start of that whole process, which will inform the next year's plan too, if once we get this one out. Or Linda, did you have something?
Yeah.
I did. I wanted to ask about, was there discussion, about having one of these meetings in Albany?
So I used to have them in Albany at the school, but, you know, if there is a place that you know that, I kind of lost that school contact that I was working with at the time, but, you know, I'm happy to do one in Albany, absolutely.
There's a community center, the library.
Yeah,
The library.
and so
Yeah.
if you know of like how to get an outreach to a group there who would, to get this information out there, I can schedule one there for sure, yeah.
Margaret, can you hold for just 1 second? Do these get posted all over, like in our libraries and?
Yeah, they get, so I send it out to all the contractor, there's a contractor list, there's an MHSA stakeholder list, there's staff that I ask them to then send it out to their list that I don't know about, there's CBOs that I ask them to send it out to their list, and then it gets posted in clinics and sites around the city.
So my question, not question, but from my experience of trying to get people to come and participate in things, I think maybe we need to be a little more forceful with our, at least the stakeholder community, and say, we really want you to assign someone from your consumer base or from your staff to attend one of these meetings. You know, we highly encourage.
Right.
We would really appreciate, because, you know, whoever this goes to, they look at it, they make a copy, they put it up. If they're even sharing it with their staff, we have no way of knowing. And as someone who's been part of an organization, it takes that kind of, you know, pushing folks and say, could you please take this seriously?
Right.
Because we would take your input seriously.
Right.
And we really need it.
Right.
You know, I thought about this, I mean, this really doesn't tell you anything. I did like a one-pager, you know, in 2006, the Mental Health Services Act was passed by the state of California. As a result, the 1% tax on people who make 1 million or more means XYZ. Berkeley Mental Health gets 15 million per year. There are 5 parts of the Mental Health Services Act, you know, CSS, 2 sentences, PEI, I mean, I don't think people see this and understand one thing. And unless we inform them and make them care in a way and connect it, I mean, for instance, the business community felt like, well, we just heard of the wellness center and they were already moving in. Well, if a flyer went to them that sort of mapped out what it is in the main projects, then they might have an interest in attending, but this really doesn't, you know, connect anybody to any kind of program or money, or people don't even know what the Mental Health Services Act is. And my feeling is like, I mean, I've made a couple of one-pagers that just sort of summarize it. And I know that in the actual update, you're gonna have to include the comments, but how relevant can people be if they don't really understand what's going on?
I mean, I'm open to any other type of suggestion about how to do what you're saying, that if you think that what I'm putting out there is not gonna draw someone in. I mean, you know, that's not a problem at all, but there's only so much you can put on a flyer before someone doesn't read it. So you have to, it's a balance, and, you know, it is an education thing.
But if I saw this and if I hadn't been in the mental health community, I would say, oh, my first question, if this was up in the library, would be, what is the Mental Health Services Act?
So I could do some different things, you know, like, but.
A short summary of what Proposition 63 is.
I can send you the one-pager I did if you want, and you can do whatever you want with that.
The point of asking your question is to send you to this meeting though, correct?
Because I don't even know what it's about, so.
What I'm saying is there can be a
Just
variety,
being
variety of different posters
resident,
out there. There can be
not
this one, there can be
something
some that
engaged.
have that, and it's pointing to the same sets of meetings, so,
I
yeah.
have a suggestion,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's good, but anyway, I'll just make it.
So if you had the one pager with this, the questionnaire, and your, and this 2 slides, you could, if you have the one pager on top, you could send it as a supplemental to the April 30th agenda, and it could be part of the supplemental packet. You know what I'm saying? For the Mental Health Commission.
For the
did they-
next mental health commission will be after these meetings have occurred.
No. Isn't this the mental health item on the April 30th
This is,
agenda?
no, that's the man's mental health plan.
Yeah, that's
Right,
amazing.
I understand that.
But that's totally separate from the NHSA.
I get it.
Cheryl is
But-
saying we could piggyback.
But you could piggyback on it, have it be a supplemental, and then it would get on the, it would get into the packet, and then the whole world could see it online with the one pager that explains it.
And there's time to do that?
I think if you
I
put
don't-
it in by Monday,
I don't
you
think
could.
the way our department,
I don't think
you can do things
You can
in
do
city
things. I don't
clerk's
think you can
office,
do it
I mean, in
as
city,
a
and city council.
Not enough time.
We can't do that, we have 6 weeks before we even hit
Oh, I
city
see.
clerk's
That's
office,
true.
and then it's like
Oh,
2
my
months
God.
from
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah, deadlines.
So if I wanted to do that, it's a great idea, and I
Yeah.
can plan for that for the next round, but if I wanted to do that, I needed to probably have that in the queue
So-
in February or January.
Can I make a suggestion? This comes up every year about how could we improve our outreach to the stakeholder process. As Karen said, it's not unique to the city of Berkeley that folks are no longer running to these meetings. Many folks have gone to one meeting in the past and they're like, okay, my thing didn't get funded to those pieces. I would imagine there are better ways and that we can learn how to do a better job of doing outreach and to get diverse stakeholders and pieces about it. I don't think it's gonna get meaningfully changed for this year, but as you have a work plan in terms of those pieces, the time to be looking at this would be around January of next year. And we would welcome input and suggestions and process improvements to be able to get it, because as Karen said, this is about getting wide feedback that helps us inform the plan. We are in full agreement that the more feedback we get, the better our plan will be. As you guys see from the elements that are added in the plan, many of them are the things that have been brought up over the course of the last year in these very meetings and in other meetings where we've gotten input that is informed, and in past year plans that informed what goes into this year's plan. So I think we can improve it. It's not likely to get much improved this year. We'll see. Berkeley Considers is a new thing for us.
Yeah.
That hits a different slice of Berkeley than the organizations we go to. I'm curious to see. That would be great if we got more input there. So, and I'm sure there's ways to do it, but to fix it up for next year, you've got to start working on it in January.
And all year, I mean, you know, like, yeah, I can use stuff and start, so my goal with the one pager of the questions, and I'm gonna translate it into Spanish too, and other languages as needed, reaching out to different organizations.
Right.
Would be that happens all year. That happens all year in the outreach, at health fairs, at like aging fairs, at student stuff, everywhere. There's a table and people can grab it and they can either inform the process or they can't. And perhaps it goes along with something that explains it a little better, like what are we talking about with this? That'd be fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Could we, I don't know if the whole commission wants to see this list, but, you know, there's so many organizations in Berkeley that are so engaged in some of these issues. Progressive Alliance, BCA, I mean, Downtown Berkeley Association, Chamber, real estate folks, everybody talks about mental health in Berkeley, you know, because they see it as an issue, a problem on the streets. And I don't know if those kinds of organizations are on the stakeholder list.
Some of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I have, and it's, so I just wanted to make you guys aware of the process. The public hearing will, if we get the thing out by the end of May, which is my date to have it out, but there's things in this process that are beyond my control that can delay the process in terms of getting it out. So that's my date. If that's the process, the 30-day public review starts then, which means that we will have in June, at the end of June, a public hearing here at this Mental Health Commission. Mental Health Commission has lots of opportunities to inform, and I start here
And to
with you
bring-
guys,
and
and
to bring
start with the
people to our
advisory.
meetings.
I've given you, you've seen this before anybody else has seen this, about what's proposed to be in the plan. And then you see the public hearing, and you get to vote on it, you get to decide about that, and think about it, give us input. So, try to give you guys lots of opportunities without having to come to the meetings, but you're certainly welcome to come to the meetings, I encourage that too, so, just wanted to put that out
So
there.
is it,
Shirley, then,
and I think in going along with the fact that, we should take responsibility for attending one of these meetings as commissioners, I think that, all of us have our own,
that's right.
constituency, as you wanna call it. We have our own people that we are connected to. So if we want to start, making this more of a community effort, we also can start talking this up. I live in a building on Kittredge, and, like everybody in the building know what I do now. Cause, I talked to them, and I even got in trouble because we had a meeting there, a retreat there. But I'm just saying, we can start by word of mouth. It's really powerful, to inform the people in the community. And I think it's right now for the people to understand that the process, the structure is already in place because of what's going on in the community. The high level of homelessness, the level of violence around the homeless. I can't even go out at night on my street, Shattuck and Kittredge. I don't go out at night, it's too dangerous, right? So I think that for whatever reasons, there's a lot of reasons that people are ready to think about and talk about solutions. And we can tell them that we've been working on trying to develop those solutions, and we want them to come and participate. I advocate in my building now. They know I'm a commissioner with mental health. And, you have to start with who you know. And I think the word of mouth and who you associate with is very important.
I need a motion to extend the meeting.
I move that we extend the
I
meeting.
just showed off
For
earlier that we were
another
getting.
15
Yeah, that's what
Whatever.
everyone.
I'll move it, I move the first comment that we extend the meeting for another 15 minutes.
Okay.
What,
I'll second.
Motion to
Thank you.
extend the meeting for 15 minutes.
and that's from you, Glenna?
No, Shelley. I don't.
So,
Well, it's actually, do you wanna go to 9:10 or 9:15?
9:15.
9:15, please.
It's 20 minutes actually.
so I'll just say.
No,
motion.
it would extend at 9 o'clock.
Oh, I see, gotcha. Alright, sorry, it's okay. I was just being technical.
Okay. And who was the second? Was that Shelley?
Shirley.
Or
I mean, Shirley.
Shelby's motion, Cheryl seconded it.
Shirley.
I thought Glenna made the motion. Okay.
No,
Okay.
as a chair, don't make
Okay.
motion.
Got it, okay. Berlinda?
Yes.
Okay. Glenna?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Shelby?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ben?
Yeah.
And Shirley?
So I think we can close this conversation. It was an excellent conversation.
Well, I
and-
wanted to say something.
Okay, please.
I just wanna say I'm so glad to see this questionnaire because I've wanted to extend to the community so often. When we have mental health month event, I wanted to reach out to the community, ask them, what their concerns are. And a lot of times it was shouted down, but I hope this will be there at the meeting. And, it does behoove all of us to outreach, because this is the time when we can put the input on spending that huge amount of money in a place that counts to the community. They're great meetings, I enjoyed going.
Is it, I had two questions. One, is it possible to include, well, would you have this already, like next year, to include with the mental health month? So that it could be all one thing, so that it can get out to the public sooner? That's a question, you can think about it in advance or now.
We can talk about that,
Yeah.
sure. And different ways, and even different ways. If it doesn't go with mental health month, it could be something else. But these things are definitely gonna be advanced mental health month, you know,
Yeah.
so.
And then also, is it okay to post it on Facebook and Nextdoor? So if you send it off with the explanation, like the one page,
Sure.
if you have that.
Yeah, I can get it.
I can do one page,
Okay.
it's not a problem, yeah.
I could put it on my council member Facebook page, and I could also put it on Nextdoor for
Yeah.
West Berkeley only, but anybody else could put it on
So Karen,
whatever
just
Nextdoor.
loop in with I before you do that.
Yeah, let me just, talk to the PIO,
Okay.
because, they are, yeah, thank you. And then I'll be in touch with you, Shirley.
Okay.
Well,
at least this I could put on.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be an issue, just, I always
Okay,
wanna loop
yes,
in with I.
sure, all right.
I mean,
Public information, right?
so, okay.
Staff announcements?
Yeah, so I just wanna, I wanna revisit, it's not your turn yet, just one minute. He wants to do an announcement out here.
Please.
So, yeah, so I just want to let you guys know that last month you had a question about the community members wanting your information, your email, and your phone numbers, and there was a question, and then, oh, that shouldn't be allowed, and that's what sort of I heard when I listened to the tape. But I had checked with city clerk, and I had actually sent Margaret and Boona an email before that meeting of my findings on that. And basically, so when you become a commissioner, all that is public information. And if somebody asks me for the list, I'm obligated to give it to them. Now, what that means is I know that puts you guys in a little bit of a quandary about answering a question. When someone might say, what does the Mental Health Commission feel about this? What you can say about that is that you could either just not answer the email. I mean, this is up to you guys how you want to do it, but these are some ways that you don't have to ruin your obligation of answering as a full commission. And that is, you could choose to not do that, certainly your choice, or you could answer in your individual capacity as a person not representing the commission and make that clear in your response. But my obligation as the Mental Health Commission Secretary is to give that information to the community. So if someone asks for your phone numbers, I have to give it to them, per the city clerk. So I just want to make that clear.
They
Can
already
you
have
give out
my
office
address to
numbers
show at the
versus
door.
phone numbers?
Thinking it's the chef.
I think I only had it.
Okay, good.
So that's one of the things I wanted to make sure you guys knew, because I knew that you had that as a question, and I want to make sure that the full commission has heard it, and it has been vetted through the city clerk's office before I even went out there. And then I do have I went ahead and found that in April 10th, the health equity, that was, kind of missed the packet, but the health, the mental health equity committee meeting minutes were approved for actually January, I think, because they skipped March and April.
And there's really
April
good
they-
information in
April
this
they
packet.
approved the minutes
Yeah.
for January, so I just wanted to make sure you guys had those.
Thank you.
Because I know that when they don't make the packet, if they get ready somewhere in the interim, I make sure you have them. And lastly, I emailed you this today, but this is the commission secretary sort of thing for me this month. I'm going to be off for a week in the middle of the month or towards the end of the month, and so I just have it all written out when you need to get me things. And that's what in May, and that's gonna affect this meeting only. You'll have a substitute for this meeting, so but all of your things I'll be handling up till I leave, and these are the dates that you need to get the things to me, just like I gave you in previous times. But you also have that through email.
Thank you.
And I think that's everything I have.
Announcement?
Yes, I have an announcement. I'll try to make it simple and short. It's very hard to get into this building, by the way. Anyway, my name is Andrew Phelps, I was chair of this commission for 3 years. But I also was a graduate in psychology at Berkeley in 1977, and I was not allowed to continue to graduate school because I knew too much about social justice. And I was recused on that basis. And slowly psychology is changing, and I have to pass around last week, they did a program that they officially supported, which is directly a social justice program, and that they are slowly learning to not tell people that they can't do social justice as part of psychology. So I'll pass this around. I think I gave one to Cheryl already. And I have a few more for the audience. And this program was supported as a social justice program on campus for a number of places. This is from their website, psychology department. Right? And if they get into the conversation, it will upgrade the whole conversation, and many of these questions will come out much stronger. So that's my point. I have lots of other comments. I certainly know about MHSA. I served on the stakeholder committee in Santa Clara County for 10 years, so I know a lot of the agendas.
Thank you. I forgot, can I do a quick announcement?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry about that, but I have these on the main table because you guys got these many, many times for the Men's Mental Health Month, and you guys are involved in the program and everything,
Yeah, I'm
so
gonna talk about
it's
that.
gonna be a big collaboration this year. But also, the main thing I wanted to remind you of, otherwise than that, is a nomination letter. So if anyone wants to nominate someone who's done great work in the mental health field, these are due next Tuesday. No, I'm sorry, Wednesday, May 1st, okay? So just, here's a copy of that. You can grab one if you're thinking of wanting to nominate someone.
Yeah.
So just wanted to make sure you had those.
Okay. What's the deadline on these?
Wednesday, May 1st. Wednesday, May 1st.
May 1st. I better go home and do it now that I have everything. So, thank you. I want to make sure that each one of us is going to attend this event and bring friends. And we have 2 tables. I've asked for 1 table on which to be able to create diverse multicultural altar so that people feel welcome. All people in Berkeley. I do those as part of my own wellness.
For when?
With May's Mental Health Month.
Oh, okay.
And a second table for us to have our annual plan, and whatever else we want to have at our table. That'd be a great place to recruit. So maybe the recruitment materials, and I wanted to know if, like, how do we get copies made for what the commission wants to have at their table? Because we've been making, sometimes we make copies, like we make copies of the annual report for tonight, or do we just let you know that we need 50 copies of this, 60 copies of that?
Yeah, so.
And that would have to be really soon.
Yeah,
because
it would
you're
have to
leaving.
be soon. Yeah, you can
Or
just
we
let,
can make
you can let us
enough
know.
copies while we're running
You can let us know. You let-
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't, we get such a good deal there anyway.
But,
You do get a very good deal.
There's
again,
some-
sort of like follow this, because I've got lots
Oh,
of.
I
things
wasn't
was-
finished, so let me just finish. So I'm gonna have eye surgery on the 9th, this event is on the 16th, so, and I'm sharing the stage with Steve. Steve's gonna, I think, gonna do the welcoming or something.
There's multiple people on the stage.
Multiple people on the stage. Okay, I'll be sharing the stage with multiple people, but I think I'm the person who's gonna tie together what the title means. So, and we're taping it. I'm sure Christina will be there, but I've asked other folks to come and also create video that can, so we can get the stuff on YouTube, we can get more and more exposure as to what's happening. And the one that we're creating, we're hoping will be shown on Berkeley Community Media. Well, a whole month after, or in June or in July. It'll take us some time to edit and cut and stuff.
So, Gwen, I just wanted
So I need volunteers, basically. I need volunteers.
Volunteers
Has
for
the
the same
filming of
table?
this gone through the city attorneys, because we have clients attending, and I just wanna make sure that we check the implications. Has that gone through the city attorney's yet?
Video in a panel, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're planning to do, but hold on, let me try to.
So this is not a public meeting.
Yeah.
This is an event where consumers would be at.
So-
So it's different than filming the
So
panel.
does press get invited to this event?
So when press gets invited, if they're going to have anybody on film, they have to get a release for that person.
We will have a release.
Yeah.
But you can't just have a release for that. This has to get run through the city process.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Yes.
people can't,
So-
I believe in democracy, what happened?
So, but this isn't democracy, this is about you filming consumers who have a right to privacy about the fact that their mental health
I
concerns. are-
get it,
Right.
Steve,
Okay.
I get it, I've been in the field long enough to know that, but,
So
the
can-
only part that we're gonna film is when I'm talking, so either that has to go through.
I don't think so, but
I-
because you're gonna film and say you're gonna show this, what I would like is if you could describe to Karen what you're planning to do.
Sure.
And then we can just check in and make sure that there are no pieces. I do not know about that, but I know enough that I would wanna check prior to
Got it.
filming an event.
Or
where
me
mental health
getting, or
consumers
me
are
getting
going.
taken off the commission.
Or just.
So if we can just run
As
that
you know,
through, then we'll clarify what we have to do, what
I
we
will-
can do, and all
I
be
will
cleaned up.
send a description to
Thank you.
Karen first thing in the morning and then get an opinion, thanks.
And I just want everybody to come to the meeting if they can on Tuesday, because we're gonna be reading the proclamation.
Yes.
Also,
Oh, that's right.
Cheryl, as far as Mayor's Mental Health Month, can you try to get council members and Jesse to come by the event? Can
They
we-
are all
You can send an
invited.
invite to the
Yeah,
whole
Cheryl can
council.
actually, yeah,
I can't talk,
Well,
well, I can
what-
probably
what's
ask,
the
I
meeting?
can put it in everybody's box.
it's in it, yeah.
I can do
And
that.
on meeting.
Oh, God. Okay.
I'm personally invited.
Okay, good.
They're all
When
on
it's
this.
been requested, that's been.
Okay.
So if you could send
So-
something like that.
did I know?
So volunteers willing to sit behind our table
I will-
for the evening one,
I
two,
can bring those flyers.
Shelby?
Yeah,
I will, whoever's there will figure it out.
Right.
Could also take.
I have a question.
And Cheryl,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The mayor
Yeah, absolutely, no problem.
I have a question.
Yes.
Oh,
I need clarification
You'll be having it.
on the altar. Are we talking about the other Michael's art? altar?
No,
Okay,
no,
what are we
no,
talking
no.
about?
It's,
A booth?
I can
I need
send
to get
you
it from you, pick it up.
pictures, it has the Bible, the Quran, images, it's
Multi-faith.
multi-faith, multicultural,
Okay.
multi,
Are you having a menorah?
yes. Don't worry, I got,
I can leave you a scholar.
Okay, and I can
Yeah.
say,
Bring the skull.
much
Okay.
thanks to Karen and Steve. You know, I appreciate it. I sat on his, hiring panel.
we have one more item, and then, the prioritized agenda items for May meeting, we've done really well. We don't have a lot of stuff to carry over into May, which feels great, but I'm sure by the third, we'll have items, sent to Karen for the meeting. One priority that I want us to talk about for a minute, I think we have a minute, yeah, is, Steve and I were both at the Police Review Commission meeting last night, and, the Police Review Commission, towards the end, voted to not take up the issue of crisis intervention and de-escalation and the role of police in providing mental health services, because I consider those as mental health services, and sort of said, no more, don't want to hear it. So I think it's the very thing that this commission needs to pick up. Because we can't not talk about what's happening in our streets, especially like today.
So Bruno, just so
What
we're
you
careful,
said.
what you would do is agendize the
Yeah,
next
yeah, I'm
meeting,
just saying
not
that-
have a discussion that's not an agenda.
Okay, I'm not having, okay, sorry. I'm just saying that's gonna be a priority, so look for it on the agenda.
I
Thank
do
you.
wanna,
Steve's so good at his parliamentary skills.
when I just want, and maybe a email can be sent out with the link to the, video from last night, if people could watch it.
Yeah, I have it. I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should
So,
have it.
Yeah, it would be great
I
just
didn't
to
watch
do
it.
that.
You sent it, is that
Send it.
that
Yeah,
one you
you
sent me
sent it.
today? And then,
Yeah,
I
because
sent so
the
many. I think so.
Everyone needs to watch
Yes.
that
Yeah.
meeting.
it's like homework.
I mean, you
I don't
guys,
think so.
you
It's
guys
9
saved
o'clock.
time.
I was there for 2 hours presenting, I
I know.
conversation,
Okay,
agenda.
let's close the meeting.
I make a
And then you
motion
have
to
that
adjourn. I make a motion to
And
adjourn.
Karen is my,
Okay,
roll call to adjourn.
I make the motion, Paul seconded it to adjourn.
Okay.
Okay, all adjourned?
Do we have to take roll?
I'm just gonna say, let's just do it this way. Get you out of here sooner.
Aye.
Are we all ayes? Aye. Okay.